fur coats in Tahiti. I thought had a nice ring to it. It also reminded me of those as useless or about as much use as jokes, about as much use as a chocolate teapot or an ashtray on a motorbike. It had that sort of feel. And I think there's a kind of a theme of uselessness in the book. Why write a useless book? There's a Taoist tale I was reminded of just the other day, one of Chuang Tzu's tales about uselessness and the value of uselessness. He wrote about a useless tree, which was useless in so much as it was gnarled and bendy, and carpenters couldn't make any use of it, any commercial use, so it was allowed to grow unharmed. It wasn't felled. So I quite like that sort of idea. But it's probably, the theme is also more about purposeless play and mind wandering, following distractions and mistakes. That's something I've been interested in throughout my writing, especially the idea of play and doodling in the margins, which I guess is what all poets are doing, writing footnotes, writing in the margins of other poets, which for me would be the New York poets, the surrealists, nonsense poets. So those are the themes of the book. I'll read, if we've got time, 2 poems. One is a very short one called Cumberland. It's a kind of a farewell to where I used to live in Cumbria. I use the old form Cumberland, and it's a sort of elegy for my mother, and it's very tiny, so I shouldn't say more than that. Cumberland. Summers in the mountains and tundra are short, and so some summers the fist unfolds, and some summers not. In Cumberland, the fist unfolds in bracken fronds and foxgloves, illumination pink. So that's my farewell to Cumbria, and this is kind of my, well, it's the first poem that I wrote in my new home in Wales. I've been here 3 years, and it's just lovely to be shortlisted for this Wales Book of the Year. This poem is called Things. It's in a form which is called a haibun, which is a Japanese form. There's a few paragraphs of quite relaxed prose, list poem type of feel, and then a little haiku at the end. That's roughly the form. And it's quite unusual for me to write poems that are about things. But I think this poem is about some things, and it's about being halfway up a hill near Llanidloes and feeling very lucky to be alive and halfway up a hill near Llanidloes. It's also about mind wandering and the play of the mind. So things. In the blossom with reading glasses, the idea of sitting in the blossom amongst the plum trees, the idea of the bees and a glass of beer, the idea of no ideas, the idea of things, the septic tank, the curve of the road, and the idea of traffic, the farmer and his ideas, amazed sheep with big vertical lift-off ears, sheep and the idea of big ears and amazement, bees buzzing, the sound of ideas buzzing above my head, the idea of my head, and passing crows, the idea passing overhead of passing overhead, counting plum trees and the ideas of counting, plum trees and crows passing overhead and the shit lying soft in the septic tank. Bringing me beer, the idea of that, and my sun hat, midges, beard. Walt Whitman dropping in with a few words. No ideas exactly, just a few things to add. Dandelions and blossom on the floor. The idea of the orchard floor. The ground beneath us and gorse in the distance. The idea of distance and yellow. trousers in the shade, the idea of shade, the idea of in, the idea in the trousers. Fungus in the grass, the idea of spreading, a robin's song, deck chairs on the move. William Carlos Williams coming to sit in the orchard, the idea of the and my. Hark at him, at the idea of harking, the idea of his, her orchard. The orchard upstairs, Penelope's idea. Up the ladder to the idea of the orchard upstairs. The house casting a shadow, 1743, halfway across the lawn. The idea of the lawn cast across the lawn. The idea repeating itself, the idea of the thing repeating, the pleasure of the idea of spaghetti, though the world may be ending, is ending. The idea of ending is ending in endless repeats across the lawn in triplicate, the idea of ending in triplicate and anchovies. The idea of anchovy sauce and mackerel and spaghetti, the curve of the road in duplicate. The endless complaint of sheep, the unsatisfactory nature of life right here and now, the idea of that. And what did you expect exactly? Bees humming, certainly. The idea of humming, certainly. Amazement, the expectation of amazement. And beyond the idea of expectation, the comfort of moss beneath the feet. Feet in the idea of moss, the idea of that. Das Ding in sich, yes. Lesser celandine. But lesser than what? The idea of primrose being thrown at the bank. Geworfenheit.